Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back. We're going to take another look at Bitcoin for the weekly Sunday stream. Been a pretty exciting week here for Bitcoin. We're finally seeing some movement upwards after all of this pressure that was built up from the bulls. It's finally moving forward to the upside, and we finally broken through prior resistance here. So now it's time for us to look at how much farther we expect it to move up before any type of corrections to unfold, and also see, what we expect here based off of price action that's developed since we've last looked at this. So let's go ahead and jump into things. Last time that we looked at this, we were considering the idea, again, one more time, of a diagonal, but it demanded another leg down like this before moving back up. That obviously wasn't the case. It broke through this resistance here and through prior all-time high. So we've had to discard the diagonal idea, and now there really is only two counts left. Now, the first count we're going to take a look at is basically the flat, where it was an A, B, C for a wave 4. The only thing that I am cautious of this count is the location of our wave 1. This is more reminiscent here of a wave 3, and I've talked about our 3-wave move, and I've talked about this considerably in the past streams. However, due to, again, our diagonal structure being broken, there really is no other way to look at this for me. And again, due to the time symmetry of this wave 4 and the prior wave 2, this remains my primary count. So we take in comparison the timing of completion of this correction of the intermediate degree of a wave 2, and we compare it to the timing of completion of this wave 4 of an intermediate degree. They're pretty much almost 1-to-1, which is something that we like to see, especially for higher time frame degrees. But nonetheless, we like to see this for wave 2s and wave 4s. So this is why I'm confident on this being the wave 4 pivot, and also this being a flat pattern here. Moving forward, we're seeing this again as a wave 1. Then we have a flat or a wave 2. You start to move up to complete our wave 3. Then we expect another correction here for wave 4. Again, we like to see that 1-to-1 time relationship here, which is something that we're going to gauge for this wave 4 as well. For a strength perspective, we're going to look at the regular wave 4 targets. 236 to the 272, or the 3414 to the 382. Given this was a expanded flat where it first took the highs and then took the lows, it's unlikely for this also to be a expanded flat. More likely that this high will be maintained during this correction, and if it's not a zigzag, which we expect, it could also range for a triangle here. That would be my secondary expectation. The first expectation, again, is a zigzag. The zigzags and flats are more likely than triangles. Exactly why we're projecting or expecting a zigzag. Otherwise, we could range here for a wave 4, typical wave 4 triangle, and move up for this wave 5. We'll talk about the lower time frame here in just a few moments, but this will be my primary expectation moving forward. If this is a wave 4 pivot right here, again, this is of the intermediate degree, so we're expecting this intermediate degree to finish as well. For a strength perspective, when we look at typical wave 5 targets, these are our typical wave 5 targets. Usually, most wave 5s will end within this zone right here, the 1, 2, 3, 6, 1, 3, 8, 2. If not, it could bump up right to this 1, 6, 1, 8, the 1, 7, 5. And this kind of falls in line with our expectations as well. We have a moderate wave 1, a strong wave 3, and we're going to expect another moderate wave 5. So we don't expect wave 5 to run too high. It could go all the way up to the 1618, again, to this zone right here. There's potential for that. But we don't want it to exceed the strength of the wave 3. So these are primary expectations here. Afterwards, we do expect a impulse to form for an A wave. It really depends on how deep we expect this to come. You know, I'm looking for a potential retrace to this weekly fair value gap. But it could be even a short A where it's like this, then we correct for a B, and then we move down for that C. So this A wave could possibly not go as deep as I'm projecting here. It's just the idea that we expect a 5-wave structure to form here. Now we'll need to manage expectations after that. But moving forward, again, A, B, C, retrace for wave 4. If we want to look at this correction a little bit differently, like we have our other perspective, which is the WXY, where instead of the wave 4 pivots being right here, right here, our wave 4 pivots right here. This changes things because we basically have to discount this entire price action as being impulsive, as it's part of this triangle right here. And this would be the origin of the wave 5 that's completing. Also, this would be the invalidation zone for this count before this is completed. However, since we've already gone above this high, we've already labeled this as a completed wave 4, at this point, it could still take this low and it would be valid because it's already taken this high, where minimum expectations here have been met for a 5-wave structure, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 waves done. It's just a matter of how much this 5th of the 5th is going to run until it completes for a correction. So the only difference between basically this count and the other count is the origin of the impulse and also how many more highs we expect. On this count, we expect the 5th waves to be completed here. But also, this count also gives us the opportunity to kind of, expect more upside, if anything. It could potentially be a wave 2 right here, which is pretty bullish. And you know what? I could honestly say the same for the other count. Let's go ahead and bring up the other count. We could really say the same thing for this one as well. This could be a 5th, or it could be the 1. Then we could retrace for an A, B, or a C. So same thing actually. It's really just a matter of how bullish we are in the long term. But when I look at structure from the higher time frame, which we can go ahead and pull up right now, let's go to the daily. When I pull up structure, let's do like this actually. This will make it look easier. Get a fractal here going. So when we look at typical impulse wave structures, here's our 1, here's our 2, here's our 3, here's our 4, and here's our 5th. Typically that 5th wave is pretty moderate. Typically ends like that, and then we get our correction for the wave 2 to correct this whole entire impulsive price action, which is pretty much what we're expecting right here. Again, a 3-wave retrace, which is right here. What I'm trying to get at is it's unlikely for this wave 5 to expand. So again, we're potentially seeing this as a wave 2 right here, but it's unlikely for this to be wave 2 and have it push up all the way up for a 3 to 4 into a 5th. This would be a pretty expansive wave 5. Measuring our impulse waves here. It's unlikely for us to really have a wave 5 that's larger than all the other impulses. It's not impossible, it's just the least likely to occur typically. It's more likely that wave 1 is more extended over wave 5, and usually wave 3 is the most extended out of all of them. But as long as wave 3 is not the smallest, which obviously this is the case with wave 1, then wave 5 can really be as long as it wants to, or as short as it wants to. But again, typically this wave 5 is moderate. Usually they do not extend, but we can't discount that, right? So this could be the 5th of the 5th right here, or it could just be the wave 1. So the 1 into the 2, into the 3, into the 4, into the 5, an extended 5th. Just Elliott wave prepares us to expect what occurs most likely. And what occurs most likely, again, is a moderate wave 5, which we see on all time frames, lower time frames, medium time frames, higher time frames, quite Elliott wave so fractal. But again, usually the wave 5s of an impulse are pretty moderate. So we're going to expect that, then expect a correction to form afterward. But the thing with these two counts together is we have directional wave degree confluence. Because in this count, it's either a 4, or in this count, it's potentially a 2. Again, this could be completed here, and it could actually start moving down for that ABC correction that we're looking for. It could be completed. We also have to be aware of that as well. But regardless, it's either a 2 or a 4. That's the most likely thing here that we expect. They're both corrections. For our zones, we're pretty much looking at 72,000 to 68,000 for supports. And this falls in line with what we're expecting for our other count as well. We want to see it pretty much find support at 382 or the 0.5 if we are truly bullish on the higher time frame, and this if this truly is a wave 2. So it falls in line with where we want to find support. And again, we expect a three-wave move to form here. Or a 2. Or a 4. So with that thinking, we can apply it on a lower time frame. This is pretty much how I take my counts from the higher time frame to the lower time frame. Again, up here we have a 3 or a 5. And then we expect that 3-wave correction here, or a 2, or a 4. That's the primary consideration. In the back of our mind, we're also aware that, again, this could be a 1 or 2. It could really push down for a 3 or 4 or 5. How does this help us in the interim? Well, I mean, it provides us wave degree confluence. Because after we expect this to be completed, this diagonal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we expect to push down here in an impulsive manner for a or 1. Then we expect to retrace here for B or 2. This means that the underlying trends are aligning, because the underlying trend right now is a minimum 3-wave correction or 2 or 4. Once it reaches this area, the higher time frame trends will need to make a decision. But for now, we have the wave degree directional confluence. This structure is pretty tricky. The way that we've impulsed up here and the way that it's corrected in the middle of this impulsive structure, it's been very, very tricky to count it. There really is no other way to count this middle price section here other than a diagonal. But we can't have a wave 3 by itself as a diagonal itself. So again, the only way I can count it valid is having this as a lower degree wave 3, retrace for a lower degree wave 4. Then for the lower degree wave 5, it's that diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we get a retrace for the wave 4. It's also almost considerable timing with the prior wave 2 as well. After we complete this 3-wave correction here, a clear 3-wave correction, we began to move up very impulsively. This correction been a little tricky as well. It's tanking at the highs, it's breaking the highs, and rejecting the lows in a corrective way. The only way I can see this at this time is basically a diagonal. Pretty much the only way I can see it. We'll expect the respect of this trend line. It may overshoot a little bit, but again, we're going to expect a signs of weakness to form here and start moving down aggressively. Just depends here at this point. Again, is this the 3 or the 5th? So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to go over. We could discuss the higher time frame flat idea. I've refrained from doing so because, again, it's kind of moot. We've been bullish for pretty much the past 6, 8, past year. There's no reason to adopt a bearish stance at this time anymore. I guess I could touch on it just a little bit, but again, once we took this high, to me, this is pretty much invalidated for one reason. we already have a complex structure in this, a W, X, Y, X, Z. If this is a B, C, and we want to label this a W, label this an X, and expect an A, B, C push up for Y. The issue here is we have to project a potentially short wave Y because we don't want the B wave to go beyond this 1382. And number two is we'd have back-to-back complex corrections, which doesn't really occur in a flat pattern. So, I mean, red flags any way you look at this, which means, again, this is probably invalidated here on the higher time frame. We could probably no longer look at this at all, meaning this is the ultimate low. So we'll continue to have that bullish perspective moving forward because there is no evidence here or any kind of substantiation to even consider bearish counts at this time. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like. Consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed. Again, drop by the Discord if you guys want to talk Elliott Wave with me and other Elliotticians in our Discord. And as always, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll catch you guys next week.